Welcome to a committee of the whole council of the municipality of the County of Annapolis meeting. We'll begin with roll call with District 1, please.
Bruce Cotw.
District 2, Brian Fuzzy-Connell.
District 3, Dustin Ansel.
District 4, White Barno.
District 5, Lynn Longmire.
District 6, Alec Morrison.
District 7, David Hudson.
District 8, Michael Gunn.
District 9, Wendy Sheridan.
District 10, Brad Redden.
District 11, Diane Lemnat.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest? Thank you. You know, we have a presentation by Zoom at 11 o'clock. Comments with regard to the order of the day.
Right here.
Councillor Gunn.
Thank you so much. I'm just querying where Tom's school bus, we had to deal with that after a special meeting the other day. And I know he's had everything in, so I'm just wondering when we'll deal with that.
Council.
At council?
We recommend it to council.
Amend that to council. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions on order of the day? Thank you. We'll move to page 8 and approval of minutes. Comments? Thank you. We'll move to page 13, please, which is review duplicate road names. Councillor Pruitt.
Thank you. I move that municipal council initiate the road name review process to review the duplicate road name of Pleasant Street in Wilmot and Pleasant Street in Malvern Square.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion.
Just a quick one. Will the residents in those areas be putting forward names for those streets? Or what will be the process?
Well, the process will be that we will conduct the review first. We'll reach out to the residents to see if there is concern with emergency response and whether any delays have resulted, if there's any confusion with service delivery. So we'll reach out to those first on both streets to determine if there is an issue. And the road naming, if it is determined that one of those roads would need to be named, the residents who live on the street are definitely involved.
Thank you. Councillor Longmire, please.
Thank you. So I know it appears that there hasn't been any concern with delays, or do we know that?
It hasn't been brought to us.
Okay. I would be concerned with future delays. Yeah. So although I know people are passionate to keep the names of their streets, I really do think that on behalf of, recognizing that emergency services and membership will turn over and familiarity and all of that, I just would not want that to ever be even the cause for one delay. Thanks.
Councillor Sheridan, followed by Councillor Gunn, please.
And just on that note, with Google Maps today, everybody uses Google Maps. So I'm wondering how many times people have gotten lost in these areas just because, I'm constantly using Google Maps if I don't know where I'm headed. So I think that would be a concern for some residents. They're selling things, or if you're telling people how to get to your home and things like that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you so much. Would it be just a matter of putting north in front of one or after and south and after the other one, whatever? Pleasant Street north, Pleasant Street south on the highway? Kind of simple.
Thank you. Councillor Ansel, please.
Thank you. I just have a quick question you probably can't answer, but so if we change the road, for example, if anyone that lives in my district put that they wanted to leave from the NSCC in Lawrencetown and they want to go to Port Lauren, Google Maps will tell them to take Elliott Road all the way over the mountain. Well, there's no Elliott Road from Clarence over. So my question is, when we change a road, is there a process that we follow within the province that then updates other things to, because there's lots of that are already happening. I know when I first moved here, almost 20 years ago, it wanted to take me up Elliott Road and a Messenger Road, and they don't exist. So I'm just wondering, is there a process through the province that we're involved in to maybe, if we change the name, that we can guarantee that it's going to be updated in other maps?
Well, our process is that when we rename or name a road, it goes into the Nova Scotia Civic Address file, the NASCAP, that day. Like, once the approval's done and the residents are given notice, if there's residents involved, then we have a time, date, and then that night at midnight, it's uploaded into the system, and the NASCAP gets updated. We have no control over when Google updates their information. We can only do emergency response, which is the NASCAP that feeds the 911 system.
So that was my next question, because I know that emergency services doesn't use Google Map.
No.
So, perfect.
And that's one of the biggest complaints we get is Google. Google doesn't take me in the right direction, but I just reassure them that emergency response and the NASCAP and the 911 system doesn't use Google.
Perfect, thanks.
I thought it would have been something like where the schoolhouse used to be before it was burned down.
Yeah, across the road from Buddy, what's his name? Yeah.
That's real place.
Thank you. Has been noted, both of these are located in District 1, and I'm not personally aware of any incident where there's been a mix-up, but there may well have been, as was mentioned by my colleague, someone trying to give directions to come to Pleasant Street. My concern is that the duplicate name may, in the future, change a serious situation to a tragic one if there were a problem with first responders. And I'm pleased to see that the county is going to take a look in and see. And yes, the residents will be consulted on perhaps one of the two, if not both of the two, before any development comes. But I think it's something we should be looking into. So I'm glad we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Well, I was listening and I did a little fun search, and I just went into Google Maps, and it says there's Pleasant Street in Wilmot, there's a Pleasant Street Kingston, and that was here, and Pleasant Street in Springfield. Well, it doesn't, so these both are in Wilmot.
One's in Wilmot, one's in Melbourne Square.
One's in Melbourne Square, it doesn't mention Melbourne Square.
That's the Kingston one they're referring to.
So if you're searching to find somebody for Melbourne Square one, you're not gonna get it at Google Maps.
That's why we don't use Google Maps.
Yeah, just a fun fact.
Viewpoint.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Page 16, please, Councillor Gunn.
I recommend that Committee of the Whole authorize the administrator under dangerous and unsightly premises to call a tender for Civic 172 West Dalhousie Road, Leakeel, property identification 05107-487, assessment account number 00176-869, to demolish the dilapidated dwelling on the property, have the demolition debris removed to an approved C&D site, and infill the foundation and make it safe.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Discussion, please. Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. So as I was reading, the financial implications suggest that it will be the responsibility of the property owner for the demolition, correct? And I go back to where it said that the property owner is deceased and that it had been, or a letter has been send to the Sun, and that there had not been any reply. So I suspect that property taxes haven't been paid either, all along the way.
No taxes have been paid as far as I'm aware.
Oh, okay, all right. So I guess that generates my question has there not been a reply to the state of this property? If taxes have been paid, you certainly should have the ability to reach the person who should be responsible for this site. So I'll leave it there, thanks.
I should have that done.
Would you like me to respond? The letters are arriving to somebody because they don't get returned. We do post it on the building as well, so that there is no question. The outstanding amount will, if not paid, will be added to the taxes as they lien against the property, and we'll go from there. That will be a finance issue.
Thank you.
Councillor Ansel, please.
Thank you. Well, you actually answered one of my questions, so that was good. Yeah, because I just want to know about the cost recovery if it goes on the tax bill, so perfect. I know that we've had, it's probably the third time since I've been here, that we've had discussion throughout the county about this. It's always something that I find very hard to make a decision on because it's someone's property. Especially when it's someone that passed away and now it's an estate. So we don't know if maybe it's still in probate, I don't know. I just want to make sure, and from reading through, we look like we did all of our due diligence. So if they're paying the property tax, then perhaps you might actually get the money back. Perhaps. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Longmire again, please.
Thank you. I just want to kind of piggyback on what Councillor Ansel just said. I really appreciated the file of chronology. It just allowed me to feel more confident in how I may choose to vote on these things.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now go, please, to page 27. Councillor Longmire, please.
I move that Municipal Council provide a letter of support to 4579183 Nova Scotia Limited in support of their application to the province of Nova Scotia for the community solar project on lands of PID number 05060207-196 Brooklyn Road, Brooklyn, Annapolis County.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Thank you. Discussion, please. Councillor Ansel.
Thank you. So I know that this isn't in my district, but I seem to be getting quite a few emails and phone calls about this as soon as someone saw it in the package coming out. A lot of the concerns are around the community feels that they haven't really been approached or asked, or and they're not answering phone calls when they're calling the organization. I'm all for solar panels. I have them on my house. You know, I think it's a great thing. I really like the idea of the solar panels in Berwick. That's shown great I don't know where I'm going. It shows great for the community, and it's saving them money in the long term. As well as I liked within the presentation that anyone within a local area will receive the 2 cents reduction on their power bill, which is good. However, I have a hard time providing support for a letter when there hasn't been an actual in-person presentation. Like, I know that all the information's here.
There has been.
There has been.
There has been. I was to it.
Yeah, in the community, but not.
I mean, to council.
Oh, to council.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I never had a chance to go to the actual public meeting. I was away. But for something this big that they're asking us to support, yes, it's a big package, and I read through it, but I still would have liked to seen them come to make a presentation to us, that way we could actually ask questions. Because it's all good for us to ask questions here, but we're all within the same knowledge base. So I don't know yet how I want to vote on this. I'm at a crossroads because I support solar, I support what their vision is and what they're trying to do. However, I would like to be able to ask more questions on this, because this is a big project, and it's going to affect different people, but I don't know if I can support not being able to ask the questions that I want to ask.
Thank you. The process was the representative of the county wrote and asked to meet with me, and there was a meeting with me, the deputy warden,
Yes,
and
yeah.
the CAO. So I guess you just have to try to trust us on this one. Further, Councillor Cotw?
There was a community meeting. There was probably 20, 25 people there. There was probably 2 spoke against it. 3 spoke against it. One was talking about the South Mountain, putting shadows on the North Mountain, and I don't know what cloudy fell out of that night, but anyway. I've lived in that area all my life. I worked at the big dairy farm that's now a big beef farm, that you could look at that piece of property every day of your life. I hunted that area from the time I was 15. That piece of property, I have no recollection of any farming ever done on that piece of property. All my life, that piece of property has been sitting there with nothing doing. It's wet. Is there other locations? There's other locations down through our valley floor that's got trees growing on it that's 100% better farmland than that piece of farmland. Are we gonna refuse things being done on forestry land because we think it's good farmland under it? My other subject is that when you go down the end of the Brooklyn Road toward the overpass in Middleton, in Brooklyn, there's a big farm field there. It's got a big for sale sign on it.
Yeah.
And anybody in this world, including me, could buy that and build a house in the middle of it and tell the farmers don't step over the line. We can only protect farmland that the people want to farm. This piece of land, like I said, has not had any farming to any amount my whole life.
Yeah.
It's been grown up in shrubs. It's low at the bottom. Maybe the person owned it, didn't want anybody to farm it. Most of the people at that meeting was for the solar project. Maybe not 100% where it was at, but they're for getting started to get green energy in our county. I can understand why they want to be closer to the east end, because the project can support up to 900 houses, or 900 units. So they can gather and like we had talked about it before, you don't have to, you could be in Cornwallis and sign up for it, if they go that far.
Yeah.
Because the system feeds into Nova Scotia Power.
Yeah.
Your power bill will never change. It comes from Nova Scotia Power. Your 2% decrease comes just on their bill. If you're a signed up person to use the solar energy. I think it's a good project. And I think the local people, and I don't know who's calling you,
but I can tell you there's not the people that live right around it, because they were at the meeting,
Yeah.
and they were for it 100%, except for one on the very end that we all got a letter from.
Thank you. Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. I am certainly all for solar development in our county. This is a serious, expensive undertaking. And we know that solar initiative in Nova Scotia is only going to grow. And so in hopes that we will see it throughout our county is going to be exciting. There's benefits to solar. We know what they are. Green energy is our future. I think I would like to know just a bit more about the actual company. That would have been the only question I think I could really generate out of the package that I read. The land, of course, has been questioned. I did receive a letter suggestive of were we not going to be looking to protect agricultural land. I do think we need to be mindful of where these businesses take up land, because we do need to be sustainable food-wise as well, and I certainly wouldn't want to see a great impact on that. So, for consideration. But of course, being closer to the east end, it needs to be exactly where it is positioned. That piece of land, per se, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it does need to be where it can take up as much membership to come to the 900 as possible. But I'm excited to see this opportunity, and I'm hopeful that my vote will show favor. Thanks.
Thank you. Deputy Warden, followed by Councillor Sheridan, please.
And right here.
And Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. So I had 2 points. The presentation they gave us was quite nice. I'd asked them specifically about recycling, and they've included some nice information here as well. But they also have a bond in place for the demobilization of the project in the future, which I thought was, well, maybe bond isn't quite the right word, because that was the word I used from the mining industry. But they do set funds aside for demobilization, and they have gone through demobilization on some of their other projects. But they also fully remove all the in-ground infrastructure, they said, the supports and things like that. So I was quite happy there. And I've heard most of what Mr. Councillor Connell has said about the property from neighbors as well. And I don't think that this project would preclude it returning to farmland in 25 or 50 years when the solar project is end of life. I'm in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan, please.
Yeah, I also attended the meeting in Port George, and it was very well received by the local people. I sat by one of the people that are going to be living really close by, and they were all for it. They signed up for it. They were excited about it. One of the questions that I had received an email on as well is the zoning portion. And I'm just wondering if the development officer could explain why we don't have to rezone that land. Would that be okay?
So your land use bylaw has a section in it, and I'm going by memory and I don't have the section in front of me, but the section talks about public utilities. This is what is treated as such. And in that section, public and private utilities are allowed in all zones. And if you didn't want it in all zones, there would have been an except for in an AG zone. So the agricultural zone, which this property is, does permit public and private utilities.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you so much. I got a couple of concerns, actually. And I'll go down. I won't be supporting this until I get a presentation in council from this group that wants to do this project. I'll make that clear. This is being built on farmland. Now, I've had a letter from a farmer that lives just down the road from there, and he complains that this land was bought years ago cheap, reasonable, I suppose. And they've tried to, the farmers in the area have tried to access that piece of land, lease it from the present owners so that they can make it, so it produces nice and clean it up, dry it up. Wetlands can be addressed, they can be drained on the side of a hill like that. So there is that. There is the fact that, do the residents really want that? From what I'm getting emails about, not necessarily. They like it commercial. Now, they're all for solar. But now you're laughing at me, sir, for some reason.
I'm not laughing at you.
Well, okay. Well, I'm addressing you, and when somebody starts laughing and having a smiley face, it's kind of off-putting. Just putting that out there. So do the residents really want this? Because I'm getting emails from people around that area that would like to see that land farmed. So the present owners have turned the land out. How is it being zoned? Okay. How is this tying in? So now the habitation group down there wants no solar fields in that area of the habitation area back in the mountain or wherever. And I said at a meeting that, if I was a young fella down there and had a big piece of property and there was an option there to put solar fields back in there, that I think I should be able to in the habitation area. So now we have residents up here in this area who are not really fussy about having the solar field there. They'd rather have that land for agriculture. So this is like two different things going on here in our county. And also with these projects, we've got a lot of people, as Councillor Enslow has said, that have solar power panels on their houses and on their properties for their own. So they create power, they help subsidize his power use and add a little bit to the grid. And here a year or so ago, I heard, I forget which minister it was, but in Nova Scotia, maybe it was even the guy from Nova Scotia Power, said that the grid had not a lot of room for solar and people creating power all the time. So if we start putting out projects like this, are we actually taking away room on the grid for people that have their own solar units on their properties, on their own properties? Are these guys, by making this, taking up room in the grid for that? So that's a concern of mine. And the question I'd like to ask him, who owns this project? I understand that the solar group franchises this by the sounds of it. They franchise, so this is a franchise, and this Trimac group, is that what I'm understanding? They're the proponent? Trying to get this going is this Trimac group? Because that's the only names I actually see associated with this. So anyway, I'll leave it at there. I really need, before I would ever make, they got a lot of questions to ask me, and I just jotted these down in a couple of minutes. I haven't given this a lot of thought, half an hour maybe. Let me think on it a day or so.
Tell me when the package was distributed.
Last Wednesday morning.
Last Wednesday morning. Thank you. Trimac Group is a group of three McNeils from Cape Breton.
Good.
Associated with. And from my somewhat intellectually ignorant point of view, the company is responding to a call from the province. Further, Councillor Longmire. Sorry. And Councillor Cotw.
I have recently personally looked into installing solar, and to provide me with 100% green energy, take me completely away from any other sources, it's going to cost me about $43,000 to put panels on my roof. So I look at these opportunities where they're it's collective and available to many. 900 units. There are people who will, regardless of incentives that are out there through the government, not be able to afford to install them. At best, there's applications you can fill out to hopefully have a 0% financing, but still, you still have to be able to finance them. So this is expensive. So this is a wonderful way for 900 units, potentially, membership, to, not have to do that individual work themselves. And for that, I'm all for this. Thank you.
Councillor Conrad, please.
Some of the things that was spoke about at Port George Hall was, there was questions about the vegetation, the slope of the field. They don't disrupt any of the surface other than putting cement pads in. So if there's a rolling hill, they don't take any of that out. If there's a gully, they don't take any of that out. It's all just cement base, brackets after that to hold your system. It was mentioned that because there were some concerns about the land not being used for farmland. And it was brought to the attention that in Texas, they let sheep graze to keep the vegetation down under the solar panels. Because otherwise, they got to pay somebody to go in, because the alders and the vegetation will be up under them solar panels within a year. So they got to use some kind of vegetation management. So it's not taken away that it can't be used as farmland. When the project's done and it's all removed, if someone thinks it's good farmland, it still can be used for farmland. And what I'm saying is that from the time I was 16 to now, 40-some years, 50-some years, there's been nothing done on that property. So if a solar field's put there for 25 years, that's only a part of the 50 years that's nothing's been done to it already. Been sitting there with no production done with it. And I understand that maybe it's because the people that owned it didn't want it. Maybe it's because the people that wanted to buy it didn't want to pay enough. I don't know. But I know that it's only a portion of time the solar field will take to what it's been sitting there. But they're going to fence it in. It'll be completely fenced, so the deer and the stuff like that won't create any problem. So there's crop management or area management that they're going to have to do to keep it so that it's viable to use as even a solar field. So that was one of the things that was brought forward. And I guess that's probably the important thing, is it still can be used as farmland.
Thank you. Councillor Bartow, please.
I was at the presentation in Port George, along with 2 or 3 other councillors. I heard what they had to say. I would have liked to see a little bit more. TriMac, the question was on TriMac. They are the engineering component for the project. They're electrical and mechanical engineers. It's a family, a father and 2 sons. So that gives a Nova Scotia component to it, but I guess one of my things is I think the other companies from Ontario were in profit, probably is just going to leave the country. If we make a positive response to this and send a letter of support, I guess there's no reason why there's another group come along and could do the same thing. As long as we're not impacting, we want to support a company, because it says there's a proposal from the government for solar gardens for 100 megawatts. This is based on a call for proposals issued by the province for up to 100 megawatts. Are they presenting on 100 megawatts, and this is only one location? Which would be, if you had the same number of locations, you'd have to have another 14 locations to get that. I'm not sure if all the information's out there for us, if we need to concern ourselves with that. I do have concerns that, if it's tampering farmland, that's an issue. But if it's farmland, if it's land that hasn't been farmed for as long as Rosie's been around, that's a long time. Sorry. So, I have a few concerns or questions, and it would have been nice if they had come to council and all to present. So I'm not sure why they didn't. I think it was me, I wouldn't want to, but that's
Policy.
Thank you. CO.
Just to clarify, I think Ms. Bent can clarify as well, up until a month ago, that land was zoned general development.
Yes,
For the past 50 years or however long. So it's never been agricultural land zoned until we zoned it that way a month ago.
okay. That was another question I was forgetting to ask, but thank you for answering it.
So no one raised an issue about it being agricultural in the past, I don't think, until 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Because for the last 50 years or however long it's been general development, has been agriculture zone plan.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor LeBlanc, Councillor Ensel, and Councillor Probst.
Thank you. We have all brought different points to the table, and they're all valid points. And what I find, the major thing is we need to be going towards green energy, and the government is also providing some formats of going to it. I remember coming to council and hearing, well, we missed out on the wind turbines, and we should have gone through that before. I think that we're at the point that we have no choice, and the land hadn't been used. I think it'd be a good way to use it. The landowner is the landowner. He chooses to rent it or lease it, or then we can't. It's his prerogative. I think it's a good plan, and I think it's probably one of the first ones, but I think we'll see more of these. And we have to do something to help for green energy. And wind turbines, according to our county, was not the way to go. So I know it's going to be a big field full of panels, but it's, I look at the one going by Berwick, and it's not offensive. I don't find it offensive, but it generates the power that is needed. So I'll just leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ensel.
So first, I just want to thank everyone for the more background. It makes me feel a lot more confident on what we're trying to do. But just a couple things I have. So around the comment from Nova Scotia Power not having enough room on their grid, I think that's just them trying to control to make money from burning fuel or whatever. I had no issues hooking up mine. I just think some corporations are greedier than others. So if they can have other people put energy on the grid, they're not making as much money. So the other thing I have is the other solar farms. So we have one in Berwick, and there's a small one at the Cogs, NSCC. So they're on the valley floor, or close to valley floor. So this one being on the mountain, I'm just curious about the glare coming down the 101. Not like it's a big thing, I'm curious. I looked through the thing, and unless I missed it, I'm just curious if the angle is adjusted so there isn't the glare. It should be, but that was my only concern. And from looking at their community engagement, I think it's great that they're, engaging with us, community engagement, First Nations. But there's nothing about 14 Wing. I know it's not within our purview, but I'm just curious if they've thought about that with their aircraft operations. I just don't want something to move forward and then get stopped federally. That was my only question with that. But from listening to the comments, I think I'm definitely more on board with supporting this than what I was before. And I appreciate the information from Councillor Connell and all the other ones that attended the meeting. And perfect, thanks.
Councillor Probst.
Thank you. I will be supporting the motion. I think it's an opportunity. We had looked a few months ago at possibly doing something out on the, out near the Graywood area. This is an opportunity, I think, where the province is doing the funding, and it would be nice, I think, for Annapolis County to play a role in moving forward with providing, getting on board with the green energy, sustainable energy. We can't continue on the road that we're on, in my opinion. It's time to just make a stand, make a choice, and I think it's the right choice to move ahead with this project, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hands.
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
Here. And sir, the reason I'm opposed is because we have a policy that we don't give letters of endorsement until we have a presentation from,
No, we don't.
I thought we did, sir. That's all right.
Thank you. 10 to 1, motion's carried. Thank you. Now we will go to page 49, please. Deputy Ward.
You want that as three motions?
Yes, please.
I move the municipal council repeal AM-2.7.8 COVID-19 vaccination policy, 7-day notice.
Thank you.
Right here.
Seconded by
No, right here.
Councillor Gunn. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Carried. Deputy Warden, please.
I move that municipal council repeal AM-2.7.9 COVID-19 response policy, 7-day notice.
Thank
Right
you.
here.
Seconded by Councillor Hudson. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Deputy Warden.
I move that municipal council repeal AM-6.2.1 COVID-19 property tax financing program policy, 7-day notice.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Longmire. Discussion. Councillor Ansel.
Yeah, thank you. So, as I was reading through this policy, in my mind, there was some good takeaways from non-COVID time, where we constantly hear people and their concerns about property taxes and paying lump sums and things. So, perhaps we could look in the future if there's ways that we can do some type of monthly financing plan or something. I know people can set it up on their own in their own bank and it just automatically comes out. But maybe there's just some type of option we can look at to put it out there that people could potentially do it versus people looking at it on their own. So if someone's in a financial hardship, they don't always see clear examples versus if it's presented as an option at tax time, that different ways to pay the property tax. That was the only thought that I had in my mind as I was reading this, was trying to think of people that have come to me multiple times saying, I have a hard time with my taxes. There's been some people that's recommended that we follow some other municipalities on the South Shore and do 6-month billing versus a year. And then there's some places that, when they're on their mortgage, it just comes off every month. But most banks aren't doing that anymore. So I just wanted to throw it out there. Maybe it's something in the future we can look at. Thanks.
Did you wish? We'll pass this information certainly along, these comments.
Yep.
I know our finance staff do go above and beyond
Oh,
to
yes.
make tailored payment plans for people who are experiencing hardship. So I know that they're already very aware of trying to accommodate.
No, perfect. Thanks.
But you're not suggesting that people get the tax bill and then pay it a year in arrears? You're suggesting
No,
beforehand.
exactly. Yeah.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We now move to page 69. And Councilor Connell, please.
I'd like to recommend the municipal council to repeal AM-1.4.10, Annapolis County Fire Services Association Grant Policy 7-day notice.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Hudson. Discussion.
Do you want to just have Ms. Campbell explain this one? Because it's not very clear in the policy.
So about 9 years ago, we were approached by fire departments represented by the Fire Services Association that they from time to time were experiencing difficulty coming up with the upfront monies to pay for the demolition of a building in assisting with their firefighting of fire. And so the opportunity, I guess, was struck upon by council that providing a little bit of seed money up front might ease that situation for the fire association and their member fire departments. I believe since then they have evolved to a place whereby they have standard arrangements for insurance coverage for the property owners themselves to cover those. There hasn't been a meeting with county officials for an application for these funds for at least 5 years. So I think that it served its purpose and now it's sort of redundant and no longer necessary.
Councilor Ansel, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the explanation, because I found it somewhat hard to follow. But, so I just want to take the time to say, I attended the meeting last night with the fire chiefs, and I thought that it was a really good meeting, and I think this is just, this is another example of us trying to work with them, but now that it's no longer needed. I'm liking the fact that we're reviewing all of our policies, getting rid of policies that no longer are needed and or redundant. But with the recent fire in Bridgetown, that's an example where the new policy, it's not required. So they brought the dozer in during the fire, and that's an insurance thing. Perfect, thanks.
Councilor Longmire.
Thank you. And so that raises the question in my mind, the Bridgetown church that just recently burned, and of course it did have insurance, or so I was told. There could be times when property owners don't have insurance on buildings, and so insurance won't be part of the recovery or the cost to the fire departments. There are going to be times when persons can't afford to pay the demolish fees for a burn. I'm just curious, I know it sounds like that this policy, although it hasn't been used in a number of years, may not be necessary, but do fire departments have other means of covering the costs for demolishing if they can't get the funds through the insurance recovery or persons personally? Or would they apply to the county for support?
Would you like me to respond? So I may be segregating this issue a little bit, but the response of the county was in relation to a request from fire services. My impression is fire services are no longer experiencing difficulties in having to put the money up front to get the demolition done. People who are performing the demolitions know the practices that they have to follow to recover the money from either insurance or property owners. I'm thinking it might be somewhat different issue of property owners not being able to afford it. I have not, and I don't know if other staff have heard of other difficulties expressed by property owners themselves. To this point, I have not heard of any, and fire departments have not seemed to have made any representations on their behalf as far as that happening. So I guess in the absence of having anything firm to rest an opinion on, I would perceive that there isn't currently a difficulty.
Thank you so much.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Page 72, please, Deputy Warden.
I move that municipal council approve policy 119, inaugural council meeting, 7-day notice.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Prout. Discussion. Deputy Warden.
This is a policy that covers a topic that has been, I think, very dear to me since we were sworn in. And it's come up numerous times over the course of our 4 years, and I'm immensely happy with this result.
Thank you. I asked this CAO to look into this because the two handovers I've had thus far have been somewhat disjointed and unclear and obtuse and confused. And Councillor Longmire, please.
So in some sort of a way, you just answered, or you just said what I was going to say. I will say thank you to Deputy Warden and to the Warden for your remarks, because it has been dear to my heart as well, so I've been pleased to see this. Thanks.
Thank you. Further discussion, Councillor.
Just a quick question. Just not quite sure why having that meeting, it could be within 4 weeks of the end of the recount, which would be more like 5.5 weeks after the election.
Sorry,
It should be as soon as possible.
can you give us the reference, please?
It's under discussions, the first paragraph,
Page?
page 72 of 108.
Well, it says the municipality is required.
It says, call a special council meeting. It doesn't say they're required that they can take 10 days plus 4 weeks. That's almost 6 weeks.
Within 4 weeks.
So I don't think that allowance should be that
CAO?
much.
Yeah, it doesn't, it's not the way it's meant to be. So the Municipal Government Act, or the Municipal Elections Act, I forget which one it is, one of them states that the swearing in must take place within 4 weeks of the election. So 4 weeks is the maximum. But there's also another provision in the Elections Act that says you can't essentially swear anybody in during the appeal period, which is 10 days. So the max is 4 weeks, but you can't do it the first 10 days. So somewhere between 10 days and 4 weeks is when it needs to take place. So the 4 weeks reference is just, that's what the legislation says. So council can't say, well, let's wait. The current council that's in existence today can't make a motion, well, we're not going to hold a special meeting for 3 months, and then the new council can't get sworn in. It has to be by legislation within 4 weeks. But it can't be within that 10-day appeal period in case there isn't a...
I didn't remember seeing that 4 weeks when I was, I'm going by memory, so.
Yeah, and the clerk can, I'm sure, recite the section and everything in the act right now, but I can't.
Yeah.
I probably could, but I'll have to show off.
That's not a number that we came up with.
No, it's right in legislation.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, hold on. Councillor Hudson, Councillor Gunn, Councillor Longmire.
Just going back to the CAO just said, what it says here in the discussion differs from what you just said. Because in the discussion it says within 4 weeks of the ending of the appeal period.
Yeah, within 4 weeks.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Within.
Not longer.
Okay.
Yeah, not after the appeal period, yeah. My bad words. But
Yeah, okay. I agree with what you said, but...
Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you. Under discussion, second paragraph, the proposed new policy also provides an opportunity to recognize outgoing council members with a small gift and a thank you, and provides an opportunity for the outgoing warden to provide brief remarks to the new council. Well, I can tell you now, Rick, sir, that I had, did not want to receive any warm remarks from our last warden before this last election, and I'm not sure as incoming councilors, if we all change, would necessarily want remarks from an old warden. That's just the way I am. We should be focusing on the new, not the old, when we get a new council. We'll focus on the new council. Give them-
You're not making ageist remarks, are you?
No,
You're using
well, I got nothing to
old?
say. Well, you can take them that way, but that's not what's meant by the Halser. But, a new council is new, we should be looking forward. New, not what the old one, not at the old council. Thank you. That's all I got to say about that.
Thank you.
I was up next, sorry. So I'm going to also draw us to the second paragraph under discussion on page 72 of 108. And I see it quite differently. I think it's the service that one provides in the time that they have served, the many discussions that they have sat and partaken in, the difficult decision-making, for all bits and pieces of what it takes to be a counselor, a warden, a deputy warden within a county deserves to be recognized on their exit. I think it's a beautiful thing. Small gift, I'm not so sure, but certainly the opportunity to sit among the greater group, the new incoming, and being recognized for your time. Some may not see it as important, some may not see it as where they necessarily want to fit in, or are uncomfortable with that. That would be their choice to either choose to be present or not. But I think it's a beautiful addition to it. Our time is precious, and we've given much to our county. Thank you.
Councillor Henslow.
Thank you. Originally, I wasn't going to say anything, but now. So, I'm very thankful that we're looking at this and updating it, because it was definitely needed. But for the second paragraph that everyone's really been focusing on here, I want to weigh my 2 cents in. So, I think it is a great idea. So, from my background, where it's a transition of power or change of command or whatever you want to look at it, where whether you like someone or you don't like someone really doesn't matter. You're respecting the position and whoever is in these situations. So I've had a few COs that I don't have the time of day for. However, I still attended the after parties and remarks for different change of commands and different things. I think it is a common courtesy that we should be doing. And I agree with letting the outgoing warden say comments, as well as giving a token of appreciation to people that serve the time. Because there is a lot that you give up from personal life, time, so on. Your family are really, giving up their life in some ways, where, if you go to the supermarket with your kids, there's no way I go to the supermarket anymore within a quick jaunt in. No, so everything gets put on hold, and you go to all these events, so it's just a small token of appreciation. And, we should also, at that time, hopefully be thanking the councillors or outgoing councillors and their families for the service that they did for the county. No different than what we do for people when they're retiring from the staff of the county. So we're now doing the monthly celebrations. I see this is no different. Thank you.
All in favor?
Yes.
All no.
Thank you.
So that is a unanimous in favor.
Yes.
All councillors have said yes. Thank you. We've got a Zoom at 11 o'clock. We want to take a quick 5 minutes or 5 minutes?
Yes. table because they get,
Yes.
oh, like in a perfect.
We have the papers that you sent us, we've had them for over a week now, so we are familiar with them, and are awaiting any remarks you would care to make. Please.
Wonderful, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
For making time for me today. I am just here to provide a very brief overview on the library's activities this past year, and update on the funding review formula and answer any questions that you might have. So to start off, the good news about 2023-24 is that usage of the library continues to increase. Our services are more in demand than ever. Overall library usage has increased over 5%, with the highest areas of use, or increase rather, being in Wi-Fi and computer time. Each of those categories had over 10% year. So we definitely know that connectivity and access to internet capabilities is still a very high priority for this area. Also, over 4,000 new membership cards, which means that 1 in 5 Valley residents has an active library card. Active library user is defined as having used your card in the last 24 months. So you may have a card in your wallet, and if you haven't used it for a while, we still consider you a member. You're just not an active one, and we don't use those. We don't use those cards for the purposes of counting usage. Also, you will remember the consortium, same page, that all the rural library regions created in 2022, sharing all of our collections. That consortium is still going very strongly. In fact, usage increased over 20% last year, even though we refined our processes to make them more efficient and reduce the amount of shipping that went on between us. So as you can see, 157,000 items were requested just by ABRL alone, and that does make us the highest user of this service in the province. So our users are finding that very valuable. The depth and the breadth of the collection has significantly increased by this consortium measure. However, you can see from the letter that is also in your package, our most recent letter to the ministry that we sent in March, the library is struggling financially quite significantly, and we are reducing staff and services while we're trying to maintain as much service continuity as possible. Which leads me to the update on the public library funding review. The current formula ends March 31st, 2025. It is a fixed formula with no annual adjustments for inflation, and this current formula was implemented in 2020. So where we're at right now is that government has formed a committee which had its first meeting in April and has several more scheduled through June. The Council of Regional Librarians did already complete background work in 2023 by setting out a shared vision and strategic priorities for funding when it comes in. This year, we are also conducting research studies on salary ranges and for collections and technology funding levels. Our mandate as the committee is to complete our funding model options and recommendations for this fall, at which point the ministry will be reaching out to consult with municipalities on the funding model and the options presented. We, as the librarians, will also be in touch regularly to make sure that the municipalities are kept updated through this process. That is all I really have to say. Just a general high-level overview, an opportunity to see you in person. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there physically today, but I'd be happy to take any questions that you have at this time.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you. Are you looking for more funding from Annapolis County? Is that what's going on here? I know I read your thing and there's a shortfall. You guys have a shortfall, forecast deficit of $100,000. And you're going to the provincial government, I take, for part of that, and you'll be coming to Annapolis County and Kings, is that it?
So I'm not asking Annapolis County for any funding today.
Well,
The library does have some operational reserves that it is using to deal with this deficit, and we are reducing staff and services where we can, where we need to, in order to not have a deficit or to reduce the deficit. So no, I'm not asking for anything for today, but the provincial funding review is ongoing, and we would expect that as a result of that, there will be an increased ask for the municipalities, but we won't have a figure or a number for you on that until later this fall or the winter perhaps.
We'll look for that in the fall. Thank you.
Councillor O'Ball, please.
Thank you. I've seen through this that you've had quite a few retirees and people coming in and going out frequently. I was wondering, do you hire students in the summertime?
Occasionally, but typically no, because the only way we are able ordinarily to hire students is through grant funding programs.
Yeah.
So we do have 2 summer students currently. They are helping run our summer reading club program, but ordinarily, no, we don't hire students.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Longmire, please.
Thank you. Does the Annapolis Valley Regional Library participate on e-read?
Yes, that's part of our provincial consortium, is having a shared overdrive account and offerings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Prout.
Thank you. Nice to see you again. I was just in sort of reference to my colleague Councillor Gunn's question or comment. If I recall, a few months back, Council agreed to match or to increase funding for the regional library by the same amount. Hopefully that there will be an amount in this review that the province is doing. So if they were to increase funding by, I'll just pick a number, 8%, our municipal unit would do the same, if I'm not mistaken. That's my recall of our discussions. So hopefully good news from the province at some point will be
Julia,
forthcoming.
I don't know if you're familiar with a report called the Ivany Report. It came out a number of years ago, and one of its remarks, almost incidentally, and I forget the exact figure, but at least 35% of Nova Scotians are considered functionally illiterate. And to me, the way for someone who is illiterate to become literate is to use a library. And I've been involved with libraries for quite some time, and also while being here on council. And I've failed to find a reason why libraries are treated so shabbily. And I hope when you're going through the funding review this time, you can persuade officials at the province that libraries are a necessary function of people. There is I don't know if it's a saying, but what do you do when you want to create a university? The first building you build is a library. And you really have an uphill battle, but you've got allies.
Thank you very much.
Further comments or questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Take care.
Thank you for the libraries, too.
Just as an aside, she's doing a lot of work. It's just her last year, well, the current year that was just finished, she's accomplished a lot.
That's what I hear, that she's a real worker.
Yes.
Where are we? Page 81. Councillor Sheridan, please.
I move that municipal council amend policy 116, committees of council and council meetings procedures, to remove Article 1, inaugural meeting, and renumber 70 notes.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Longmire. Discussion, please. Councillor Gunn.
The inaugural meeting, page 82, paragraph 1 down at the bottom, that's scratched out. The inaugural meeting is the first business day following 10-day appeal period shall provide as chair of the meeting until such time as a warden. So this change is, in this policy here, is basically just making it so that the clerk will do the chair of the meeting in the decision of the deputy warden. Is that right? Is that what I got out of this? That you would be the chair for deputy warden even after the warden was elected?
Yes, so currently but this change is because you just recommended a policy about that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's why this is being removed from, Article 1 is being removed from this policy,
Because we approved this other,
because you're recommending the approval of the policy for an inaugural meeting. So it just takes it was redundant for it to remain in this one. And the
All right,
new
thank you.
policy does allow the clerk to remain for the election of the deputy warden as well.
yeah, thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Page 97. Deputy Warden, please.
I move that municipal council notify Valley Waste Resource Management that the municipality wishes to extend or renew the service agreement beyond March 31st, 2025.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Conroy. Discussion. Councillor Conroy.
When I was reading some of the Valley Waste stuff, it seems like the consultant has recommended that all members be full members. And it was disappointing that they never listened to us. We didn't say we wanted to be a full member, and we didn't say we didn't want to. We had just asked for two options. And they seem to, again, be pushing, the fact is that either you be a full member or I don't know what they're gonna do. And it's just disappointing to hear that they didn't even take in consideration or show consideration of what we asked of them.
If you want, just to clarify, or not to clarify, I guess, but just to make a point. So that's the consultant's report, which is, as I understand, 99% complete, but essentially that'll be the recommendation. Doesn't necessarily mean the IMSA board is going to accept that. And so when I met with some of the staff last week, they're preparing a presentation that'll have to come back to the board first, because the board's going to have to make a decision. Are they going to force us to be a full member, or are they going to provide us with an option? So I expect within the next month, we should get something back from them that provides us with that option. And what the benefits, the pros or cons of being a full member or not being a full member are.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson, please.
Yes, just a quick question. On the background in the last paragraph, it mentions the next service contract would be tendered. I just want to know when the timing is on that. Is it?
It was tendered.
Oh, it was tendered, okay.
And they do have the results, yes.
Okay.
And they're ready to award it. If they haven't already, I don't think they have, because we have to decide if we're in or not. So it has been tendered, and there was 3 companies, I believe, that bid on it. And so they're prepared to award the tender. I think they're just waiting on us and some of the other partners.
Okay.
Councillor Longmire.
So with the mention of options, and of course, full member versus not a member, is there ever, or has there been any discussion about, or does a full member mean an asset holder?
We are an asset holder now,
We are an asset holder now.
because we own buses, so we are an asset holder now.
Okay.
And I assume, do we have any bus shelters?
Not shelters, but properties
We have properties that we own, but
that they service their buses.
yes. And so the other municipalities that are partners, if they own bus shelters, they maintain them, but if we had bus shelters, we would be responsible for owning the asset and maintaining it as well.
Okay, thank you.
So we're essentially an owner now, but not legally.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Because we're paying this, we have the same funding formula as all the other partners. We're buying our own buses like the other partners, so everything is essentially identical. We're just not technically or legally a full partner.
Thank you.
Only on the bus service and things, not on Valley Waste Management.
We're a customer.
Customer.
What?
Simply
Service.
evaluate.
Service. They provide a service to us.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Page one.
Was that a neighbor?
No, it was a yay. I was slow to the draw.
I watched those draws.
105, please. This is an information report.
You've been busy. Question.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much. On the first patient, in the planning, I still get, receive calls about the planning in the habitation area down there, and whether it's still going ahead, and whether they're gonna have their own zoned or planned area, or are they just gonna be in the planning, the county-wide plan with the rest of the county, or are they gonna be a special little borough? Thank you.
That'll be a decision of council.
Pardon me?
That's a decision of council.
That'll be a decision of council.
Correct, yes. There is a draft plan prepared, as you're aware. They will be meeting here
21st.
next week,
Yeah.
to have a discussion, and if they are agreeable, it'll go to PAC, of which you're a member, for discussion, then they'll go to council, so council will decide.
Council will decide. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Ansel, please.
Thank you. I just want to say, it looks like it's been a busy year. I was really surprised that we only had one appeal for a decision against a fire inspection,
Yeah.
which I know, just from my previous experience.
And it was our first ever, if I may.
Really? Oh, okay. Well, all right, well, never mind. I thought it was, yeah, because other places, it's constant. Not here, no, just within the federal world. No, it's good, and so with the planning advisory stuff, I see that we're gonna start moving with that soon. But with the Cornwallis Park, I'm just wondering, is that moving forward with that planning group, or?
Yeah, and again, we have an area advisory set for May the 28th to
Okay.
present them with more draft documents for them to weigh in on, and then the next steps will go from there.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Councilor Sheridan, followed by Councilor Vaughn, please.
So I was speaking with Linda on the East End planning area, and she advises me that we are going to start back up in the fall, so I just want to bring that to some of the members that are here. And also, I want to give a great big shout out to her because of all the work that you guys have put in for the countywide plan. And I attended a lot of those meetings. So, great job. Thank you.
Very good job.
Excellent.
Councilor Vaughn.
Just to, thank you, just to extend to that, if we're looking at the fire inspection on page 106, your last bullet there, in the town of Middleton, and it says, as of March, we have 90 buildings left of the 167. Was there a lot more work than expected, or, oh yes, there's a big yes to that.
So they weren't able to work towards their fire inspection, so when we left the service in the end of 2019, if I recall. Unfortunately, that's when they stalled due to staffing issues. So we picked up where we left off in 2019. So it's been a lot of work, but in fact, actually, the 90 out of the 167 in 5 months is actually quite good.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were also maintaining our own policies.
Exactly, that's why I was
Yeah.
looking at that number, thinking, well, it's a lot of work being done, and it's double time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you to those people as well. Thank you, Linda.
Further comment, Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you so much. And it's a really quick and maybe rather foolish question. Heritage, it's under 106, Heritage. St. John's Anglican Church and Crematorium. I didn't realize we had a crematorium. Do they actually burn people up there?
No, it's where your cremains can go. Your remains.
Oh, so they have a depository?
Yes.
It's a columbarium.
Thank you.
Columbarium, did I spell it wrong? Yeah. Sorry about that. No.
Well, it says, the way it said crematorium, I was thinking that it was
No, my apologies.
a big oven there.
Further discussion. Councillor Alvar.
I think I'll try and ask this question, and maybe it's not the right time, place, or whatnot, but with the coastal protection and knowing that, we're nowhere near a plan yet, just wondering about how people are they being sensitive around property, inquiring about permits in areas where there is going to be some serious discussion on whether permits will even be granted.
So the Coastal Protection Act, it's my understanding it's been put on hold. They've sent out information to provide folks with basically a guideline. We do have a 50-foot setback from water course, and of course in your planning documents there's a definition for that. So when I talk to people who are attempting to build along the shoreline, I give them that information and tell them to check out the information the province has provided to municipalities.
That's great, thanks, Linda.
Any more for any more? Deputy Warden.
Tagging really at the back end of Councillor Longmire's comment, we had a provision in the bylaw for slope. Did we leave that in there, or did it move?
I think it's still in there.
I think so too, yeah. Thanks.
Anything further? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Page 107. Trans-County. Questions? Comments?
Comment?
Please, Councillor.
Can't say enough about TransCanada. But my God, I see them around, and they take care of people like nobody else. They're great. Thank you.
Provide a great service.
Yeah.
Page 108. Sorry. Who are we looking for? Councillor Long.
Thank you. I just want to say a huge shout out to TCTS as well. They provide an exceptional service, transportation for persons to go to appointments, to hospital, investigative work and such couldn't be accomplished because there are a tremendous amount of people who do not have family that live local. And so this service is a necessity. The only one thing that I'm hopeful for the future is perhaps we will get to a place where they will hire attendees, medical attendees that can as well go with on these appointments, because there are people that are excluded from using TCTS, such as persons like COPD, emphysema, using oxygen. They can't go without a medical attendee, so that's something for the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Very good.
Anything further? Okay, page 108, please. Now, these are recommendations from the Forestry Advisory Committee meeting. Would you like to do those?
Sure.
Councillor Gunn?
Would you like them done one at a time, or the?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. I recommend that the Forestry Committee recommends that municipal council enter into an agreement with the Mersey Tobiatic Research Institute for PID 05101480, the Hollow Mountain Road, for the Woodlands for Wildlife Program.
Seconded by Councillor Prout. Could you explain that, please?
I most certainly could, and it'd be my pleasure to, sir. So we have a piece of county land, and they're only interested in one little end of it that's on the Hollow Mountain Road. And it's because there's a species at risk on this property. It's a wetland, and they would like to pay us money so that we don't go and develop that or cut it down or drain it or anything like that. And they like to pay us money for the next few years to let that land be, so that this, do you remember?
Trying to think, was it a warbler?
Some kind of warbler that they found there
I don't have my notes.
on this piece of property, sir. And that would be my best explanation, that they will give us money if we don't touch that property. And I think the amount Janet had, I think it's about $100 a year, something like that. And it's only a couple acres.
Thank you. Discussion.
Can we just clarify what piece of land this is? This is the old ball
Yes,
field, isn't it?
it's, you know, the ball field land that we have there.
Right.
It's the strip of that ball field land that goes up against the wetlands that's there.
Okay, it's all one big piece of land.
It's all, but they're only interested in just having us look after one little tail piece of it.
Okay,
Right.
this references the entire pit. So
Oh, does it? Okay, well, it's a part of that PID, so that PID hasn't been segregated. It's only one part of that PID that they want to look at.
they want the upper part.
The part that's in the wet.
We have to clarify that because there was some expressed interest in our recreation meetings about redeveloping that property.
Sure,
That would preclude that from happening if we
As it should.
essentially froze the whole piece, so.
Yeah, as it should, but that piece of property could be, I'm sure, segregated from the other, you know.
There's land that's adjoining to ours as well, that they're talking to the landowners.
Yeah.
It kind of cuts across in behind the ballpark area of that land. So I think that it would be good to maybe get a rewording on that, say, the section requested or something, because it's not the whole PID that they're requesting. They had a hashed area showing on the diagram, but I don't have that with me right now. So for clarification.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's the end of your intervention?
I believe, because I don't have anything for, I didn't even pick up on that when I was reading the package, but it is a valid point that we don't tie up the whole bid because of one cross-section of it. So we need to amend it.
Mr. Young?
With my background from environment, I would be concerned about activities on land where there is a sensitive wildlife species. If you go in there with chainsaws and start cutting trees down and opening up space, you could change the habitat significantly.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying not to do it, I'm just saying we need to confirm with the group about what we propose to do to see if there's an impact. That's all.
And my concern is, does this current wording enable the staff to do what it is some councilors would like the staff to do?
It's an amendment.
It does not.
We'll need an amendment of some sort. And if I may, sir?
Please.
Thank you. Perhaps our administration could put some sort of line. I don't know if we'll need to create another piece of property from that, a different number, but they're only interested in the end where that warbler is, not the other end. That's quite a long stretch of property. I can't imagine that they're not going to do anything with it. They're not going to touch it. They're just going to leave it alone. It's just, and the ball field is on the extreme other end of the property, right? So it really shouldn't bother too much. I mean, because Franklin Road, he's right next door to the place within the same distance,
Yeah.
and he's making noise all the time.
I'm just suggesting you confirm with the group, that's all.
Yeah.
I think my very first council meeting, folks were discussing a motion that had been passed previously. And there was a discussion, and the CAO said, well, that's not what the motion says. And a councilor said, well, we meant this. And the CAO said, you can mean all you want, but you have to have it in the motion. So how do we deal with this? Do we need an amendment?
I guess my notes would be that municipal council entered an agreement with the Mersey Topiatic for part of the
Yes.
PID, not the whole thing. And then at the end, provided the protection does not impact the future development of the remaining lands.
That's right.
That's moved by Councillor Dunn, seconded by Councillor Prout. Discussion on the amendment to the motion. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? We'll now vote on the motion as amended. Discussion.
Can I hear it read in with the amendment?
CAO will have to do that.
Sure, that municipal council entered into an agreement with the Mersey Topiatic Research Institute for part of PID 05101480 Hollow Mountain Road for their Woodlands for Wildlife program, comma, provided the protection does not impact the future development of the remaining lands.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carried. Next one.
Okay. I move that municipal council send a letter of support to Save Our Old Forest, SOOF, who are requesting Beals Brook and Goldsmith Lake wilderness areas to be designated by the province as protected sites.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Warden. Where are these?
You just took the words out of my mouth.
I'd have to have a map to look up Goldsmith Lake, but it's the same piece that they've been trying to, remember a few years ago, oh my God, it was our former warden was even there, and they were camped out on a piece of property there. There was a point of land that goes out in there, Goldsmith Lake.
Is it in Annapolis County?
Yes.
Well,
Yes, sir.
northeast of, and very near Gibson Lake.
Yeah.
You know where Gibson Lake is?
Where the schoolhouse burned down.
Yeah.
That's a Google map.
Don't fall for that.
next to the rock wall with the tree with the X.
Right there.
You got it.
Anglicans camp is.
Yeah, anyway, it's out in that part of the direction, and
West Elm.
they found some species at risk as well in there through the years, and fauna as well.
Further discussion?
I just got a question.
Councillor Enswell.
So now we discovered where it is. Who owns it? That was my other question. The province owns this, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's part of our
Okay.
ground.
Further discussion.
Deputy Warden.
I think you guys may recall, we had a request from them back in January about this, and we diverted from the letter, and the warden and I had a meeting with the representatives of the provincial department about other avenues of doing things.
Yeah, we understand.
That didn't really progress forward, so the SOOF has brought this back for that reason.
All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Next, please.
I move to recommend that the municipal council further develop the ecological forestry initiative on the Greywood location and neighboring lots owned by the county.
Seconded by Councillor Hudson. I think we need some explanation.
Okay, so when we had the Western Woodlot Forest Cooperative Services in there, and they looked at our Greywood property years ago, they made some recommendations that we would look at this piece of property first, and then this piece of property maybe and so on. And rather than jump to another, we would like to further our ecological forestry initiative, first of all. And rather than go to another part of the county, we've already got a sort of an inroad here. A lot of the work is already done. The pre-treatment analysis has already been done on this property out here, so that we wouldn't have to pay for that. But they would go in and further take another, I don't know how many hectares, 10, 15 hectares, and look at it ecologically forested, and we'd move on from there. We would actually, we won't have to take any of our little bit of stipends that we put away to do this next part. It's already done.
We own 3 pits up there that are adjoining, they one mass of land, and they didn't do the ecological portion on the whole thing.
No.
So the original one was portioned just as a demonstration, and we're recommending that it goes further for the rest of that property, or the next logical section of the next piece.
So is this wording sufficient
Yes.
for the staff to proceed along the lines that have been stated?
So are we saying that the monies from our previous
Endeavor.
job is used to pay for this one?
No, we don't, there's no, there's,
We
if
will
I
be
may,
gaining money on that spending.
if I,
Please.
if I may, sir. Thank you. So we did make, I'm not sure what it was, it's somewhere around $9,000 from our last little piece of property they did out there. Well, we can take that and put it into more pre-treatment assessments, which we have to pay for. But on the properties out there, they did this years ago. When they did this first one, they did the pre-treatment assessment.
Oh.
So they have a plan already, and not a plan, but they have a process on those pieces of property out there that is already in place, so we wouldn't have to pay for that, right? We wouldn't have to pay for that process. Now, perhaps somewhere over the line, they might have to build a little road. We might have to build a little road, but I don't think we have to, not on these next ones. But anyway, I'll stop.
Councillor Ansel, followed by Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. So, I just have a question about the study that they did years ago. Does that study expire?
No, as a matter of fact, thank you. So they did these pre-treatment assessments about 2 years ago. And last summer, they were in there and they did night studies. So, and that entails, going around the woods with recorders and listening for, birds, species at risk. They've done all that. And as well, years ago, when this property was first looked at, a man by the name of Tom Berry did it. And he's a forester, well-known forester in Southwest Nova. And he went out there and he put together a program for this Greywood property, we call it, which is about 600-700 acres of property out there. And it got shelved. And then when we started looking at it, the forestry committee years ago, when we started looking at it, we had Tom Berry present to us. He did, and the payment for Tom Berry's work, treatment analysis from that, was actually paid for by the Western Woodlot Forest Services Cooperative.
Yeah.
Because for some reason they felt that they should. And anyway, years later, we're in there and we went to, the county, the forest committee, looked at that piece of property and decided that that's probably, if there was a piece of property the county owned, that would be the one that we should look at because of the size of it. And nobody's ever touched it for years and years and years. It's a mess. So they've gone in there, the Mersey Tobiatic Forest Research or Wildlife Research Group went in there. They did the studies. They've looked at it. It's had the Western Woodlot Forest Cooperative look at it. It's had everybody look at it. It's probably one of the most ecologically forested piece of property in southwest Nova because of so many people that have went and looked at it and so many considerations that have been taken care of or that have, been thought of there. So now we have 2 other pieces of property, or maybe even 3 out there, that the pre-treatment assessment and the harvest plan has already been made. That was made. So we don't have to pay for that. So that is why we recommend that municipal council further develop the ecological forestry initiative on the Graywood location and neighboring lots owned by the county. That's why that motion is. So I think I explained it the best I can. Thank you.
So I'd like to ask the CAO if the wording here is sufficient for the county to proceed.
I would suggest it's sufficient to move it to the next stage. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to pull up the mapping to show where the lots are, what the size are. We'll have to meet with the group and find out what their plan is. Do they plan to do the whole thing or just a certain section? And then we'll come back to council, and here's the plan. So you'll have to get another kick at the can before we actually move forward with anything, because we need some clarity on some of the details, but we won't get it in a motion. We're going to need it with some.
And if I may, just add to the CAOs, our staff person, Janice Young, has been handling a lot of this, and she actually makes very good sense of it, and she's been very good at this whole process. Thank you.
Can I ask my second part?
We're okay with proceeding with this.
If council wishes to, yes.
Yep.
I just had my second, because thank you for the very long explanation. And the detail.
I'd like to do it shorter, but it's hard.
No, perfect. My second part was, when it comes around forestry, I always get nervous because it's a very sensitive topic. And I know that the group Save Our Old Forest are very active in the community. Have we reached out to them about this part to see what their thoughts are? I'm just trying to see where all the puzzle pieces come together.
And if I may, sir. So years ago, I've been directing people out there looking for old forest because Mr. Berry, when he surveyed that whole piece of property years ago, said that there was certainly, if you know the land up there, we go to the top of Mickey, along that stretch is the top of Mickey Hill. And if you look to the northern, you'll see a big depression in the ground up there, right? We own, our land carries down in that depression. The man that owned it years ago couldn't get in there. They didn't have machinery back in the day to get in places like that. And when Mr. Berry looked at that, he said, he didn't really call it old growth, but he certainly said, there are some old trees back there, some old sound trees. So in my words, that tells me, didn't really want to call it old growth because he might have put that label on of old growth. But certainly in one part of that, when you look at you can tell that nobody's been in there through the years. Let's see, I think one of our former wards, Mr. Ritchie, had a camp on a little lake that's back down in there. But there's not much in there.
Yeah, because the only reason I ask that is it's a very sensitive topic, and I feel that that's a really good group that really knows what they're doing.
Sure.
And from the presentations that I attended that they were hosting, that my interpretation originally of old growth and what the real interpretation was completely different.
No, it is.
I didn't realize how young old trees could be, right? Yeah. So I'll leave it at that. Perfect. I'll wait for everything to come back.
Further discussion. Are we being serenaded?
I think so.
Yes, sir.
In a kind of way.
Some good electric planer going up there.
Oh, the ground.
Councilor Monomer, you had something?
In a roundabout way.
Okay.
What I was going to say has been already addressed, but CAO said, it's important that we get the maps and meet with the group. It is really important that we do that because I'm not a forest expert and I know that a lot of the pre-treatment, and I thank you, Councilor Gunn, for sharing what you did. I can conclude some bits and pieces, it makes sense, but again, I think, just a little more detail.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. I would like a motion, please, to go in camera in accordance with section 22(2)E, contract negotiation.
So do we turn this camera on up here?
We're back. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
So there's no light no more.
Yeah, the light's gone.
You're not using